Earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, ice storms, tornadoes. Different parts of the country face very different types of threats, but natural disasters or man-made emergencies can happen pretty much anywhere. According to the CDC, the majority of U.S. households now rely solely on cell phones, which means in an emergency, if cell service goes down, there's no way to call for help. That means in the immediate aftermath of a crisis, restoring telecommunication is top priority. But if damage is widespread, recovery can take days or sometimes even weeks. However, while utility crews and emergency responders scramble to restore power and cell phone service and reach those in need, there are things you can do to help the recovery effort go smoother. So for today's agenda, I want to start by reviewing Hurricane Michael and how it highlighted the growing need for resilient telecommunications and the significant challenges that arise when communication goes down. Then I want to review some recovery tips. Small things you can do that will help you and your family stay safe and that will help first responders focus on those with the greatest need. Basically, your being better prepared can have a significant positive ripple effect on the recovery effort. Some of these suggestions you may have heard of, but others maybe not. And either way, they are good reminders that apply to a wide range of crisis situations, for both before an event occurs and immediately after a disaster. So let's get started. If there was ever any doubt in your mind as to the importance of telecommunications in a disaster, I'd like to present Exhibit A, Hurricane Michael. Michael, which struck the Florida Panhandle on October 10, 2018 as a strong Category 4 hurricane with winds at 155 miles per hour, is a stark reminder of just how critical communication is to the recovery effort, and why the need for such programs like the Verizon Wireless Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery Program are so important for the future, especially as both citizens and businesses become increasingly dependent on cellular technology. Just listen to part of a report from the Washington Post in the immediate aftermath of the storm. Florida's Governor Rick Scott, touring the area for the third day in a row with FEMA Administrator William Brock Long, said he is urging cell phone companies to speed up their repairs, including deploying state police to escort utility trucks and workers through the increasingly clogged traffic on roads that have been blocked by downed trees, utility poles, and other debris. Quote, "One of the most frustrating problems is telecommunications," Scott said, outside the heavily damaged Blountstown High School, which was built in 2011. Scott said the region's communication system, which at times have been in a near total blackout since the storm hit, have, quote, "got to get up because many people don't know where food and water distribution sites are located." FEMA Administrator William Long warned that recovery will take time, especially given the amount of devastation. That from Patricia Sullivan at the Washington Post. 3 days with nearly no communication at times? That's a scary thought. But picture this. The power line or cell phone tower that needs to be fixed is on the other side of that downed tree. Well, you can't fix something if you can't get to it. So one of the lessons learned from Hurricane Michael is that if damage has been widespread, like a Category 4 hurricane or major ice storm, crews can't restore power or cell phone service until the roads have been cleared, which can take a long time. That means it is important to have an emergency radio or other form of emergency communication other than your cell phone, so you can get critical updates like where you can get help, water, and supplies. So let's talk about a few basic things we can all do to be more resilient in the face of a disaster. Store phones, tablets, batteries, chargers, and other equipment in a dry, accessible location. Simple Ziploc bags will be pretty effective, and today there are many waterproof phones, cases, and other protective accessories. Make sure phone and tablet batteries are fully charged well before the storm arrives, just in case the power goes out. If possible, have additional charged batteries, power storage devices, or car charge adapters available for backup power. In today's day and age, there are numerous ways to get backup power, including even solar-powered chargers. So there are a lot of great options. It's also a good idea to review the winter storm checklist and power outage checklist from the American Red Cross, which can be found at redcross.org. Maintain a list of emergency numbers, police and fire agencies, power and insurance companies, family, friends, and coworkers. Make sure you not only have them in your phone, but you also write them down before an emergency arises. Seriously, how many of your friends and family phone numbers can you actually remember? Yeah, better write them down. It is highly recommended that before the storm arrives, you use a camera or phone to photograph and catalog your valuables and other household belongings for possible insurance claims. It can be extremely difficult to try to remember everything after the fact. Choose from hundreds of free weather, news, and safety-related apps and services for smartphones and tablets, such as the American Red Cross, FEMA, the National Weather Service, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the Weather Channel, Weather Underground, and numerous others to get alerts and stay up to date on the latest conditions. But make sure your smartphone is not your only connection to emergency information. Check the area around you for safety. In the case of biological, chemical, or radiological threats, listen for instructions on local radio or television stations about safe places to go. Have injuries treated by a medical professional. Wash small wounds with soap and water. To help prevent infection of small wounds, use bandages and replace them if they become soiled, damaged, or waterlogged. Some natural hazards, like severe storms or earthquakes, may reoccur in the form of new storms or aftershocks over the next several days. Structures that have already sustained damage are at a much higher risk of collapse. Take all safety precautions if the hazard strikes again. For an earthquake aftershock, remember to drop, cover, and hold on, just like you did during the initial earthquake. For severe storms, get away from windows, get low, and get covered. Your best bet in a severe storm is a basement if you have one. Avoid using the cell phone unless you need to. This is especially important when cell phone service has been damaged or limited. Emergency responders need to have the telephone lines available to coordinate their response and reach those who need help. And if there is a large volume of calls, it can sometimes overwhelm the network, resulting in dropped calls or lost service. During the immediate post-disaster time period, only use the telephone to report life-threatening conditions and call your out-of-town emergency contact. Keep calls short and avoid using data. Also, when your phone is not in use, either switch it off or put it on airplane mode to save battery power when you really need it. Remain calm and pace yourself. You may end up in a leadership position, taking charge of other people. Listen carefully to what people are telling you and deal patiently with the most urgent situations first. Panic is one of the worst things you can do in a disaster. If you had to leave your home, return only when local authorities advise that it is safe to do so. Also, be sure to have photo identification available, because sometimes local authorities will only permit people who own property in the disaster-affected area back into that region. Except in extreme emergencies, or unless told to do so by emergency officials, avoid driving during the immediate post-disaster period. Keep roads clear for rescue and emergency vehicles. If you must drive, do not drive on roads covered with water. Ever. They could be damaged or eroded. There may be deep spots you cannot see. Additionally, vehicles can begin to float in as little as 6 inches of water. Most people that die in floods die in their cars, and many were in SUVs they mistakenly thought were safer. In general, avoid floodwaters as much as possible. Even wading in the water can be dangerous, as there could be hidden hazards like electrocution risks. In conclusion, disasters can strike at any time, from weather events like hurricanes, winter storms, and floods, to geological events like earthquakes or volcanoes, to man-made events such as terrorism or industrial accidents. We know that catastrophes will occur. Recovery is never easy, and telecommunication is a critical component. But there are steps that we, the public, can take to make us less dependent on cell service, speed up the recovery effort, and reduce the risk to first responders. Have a plan, test the plan, then revise that plan as needed. Stay safe, and thanks for listening.